Thanks for checking in the Pivoting to Web3 podcast. Go to pivotingtoweb3podcast.com to download and listen, or Web3 Game Plan to check out the videos. Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to Pivoting to Web3, and I have an exciting guest today, somebody I've been wanting to talk to that has some serious experience in branding. Kofi Annan. He spent 15 years helping famous brands such as Puma and Mercedes, but there's some others too. Some really big ones like IBM, Pfizer, a few others, but there's a long list, as well as other emerging companies in navigating the rapidly evolving technology and driven landscape. He's the founder of the brand Sensei and company that merges business strategy, consumer insight, and technologies like AI to build meaningful connections between brands, people, and communities. Kofi has been highlighted in the Wall Street Journal and Entrepreneur magazine and is a popular speaker at events such as Harvard and the South by Southwest Interactive Festival. So with that said, I'd like to welcome Kofi, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, to Pivoting to Web3 podcast. I'm glad to have you here and all your experience and knowledge. Introduce yourself and tell us a little bit on how you became such a fabulous brand master.
Oh, thank you, Donna. Thank you for that excellent introduction. And it's a pleasure to be here with you and to speak to your audience as well. Thank you for having me. To your point, I've been in the brand development and technology space for a number of years, working with large enterprises and, both domestically and global initiatives, but then also like working with up and coming companies, startups and small businesses that are looking to leverage to create both a brand that has impact with the audience that they're targeting, but then also using technology, which Donna, you and I definitely share that perspective on technology, using that to amplify and accelerate the efforts that they're having. And that's where I find that's my happy place, kind of helping people connect. And I've been doing that for a number of years. I've found it as a great asset and great conversation starter. And it helps me meet some great people like you, Donna.
Well, it's been an exciting meeting and a chat prior to the podcast. And let me tell everybody, we've got a lot of things happening between Kofi and I. Our synergies overlap, so there's going to be some great possibilities and collaborations. But until we get to that point, I'm interested in knowing, with all the changes in technology, you mentioned AI a few times when we were talking. How do you see AI really impacting how business is done today with brand management? Where have we been, and how does it make a difference with AI going forward?
Sure. Yes, I've seen a lot of changes within the brand development and brand management context. Everybody remembers, kind of like the traditional kind of marketing advertising image, right? Where it's like the madman, people are kind of creating ads and they're being super creative, and these large brands like Procter & Gamble and all these kind of products that are being sold. So I think a lot of times people associate branding with that image, and the byproduct of that being the logo or the ad that comes out of that, right? What a lot of people don't realize is the mechanics behind how that logo and that creative comes together, and not just mechanics around creating it, but about what it means and how it's actually going to have an impact on the audiences and the communities. So that's something that's continued throughout history. In the past, we had things like television and radio, and you really kind of had a limitation around where most consumers had a limitation around where they were able to find out about new products, or how they were able to even acquire new products or new brands. And that's one of the biggest changes I've seen since the Mad Men days to more current days, where we have social media, which has essentially blown the doors off for everyone involved about how they can connect with other people and find out about new products and find out about new companies and new brands. But then also AI has, in the past couple of years, has accelerated that in the sense of also making things more, allowing companies to create content and also branding and communications that really speaks to them and get that out more efficiently. And I think that's one of the impact of that. So social media has really exposed us to different ideas and different products and different brands, but AI has really accelerated how we're able to access that and how quickly we're able to connect with it, but then also digest and acquire those brands. So for a company that's actually even a smaller company, that doesn't have the resources and the budget that they used to have to compete with some of the bigger people, the bigger competitors in their market, it's also a huge opportunity with AI and technology, a huge opportunity for upcoming companies to be able to match the ethos, the exposure, the reach, and the visibility of any other company with the billion-dollar budgets. So now it's really not about the budgets, it's about how creative and how connected you can be. And AI has helped facilitated that.
So with that said, so you have AI and it helps facilitate all the reach, the distribution, the creativity, and helps with the branding. But from a customer standpoint, does it improve any of the personalizations or the buying habits, or how does it bring the dollars in differently?
Yeah, no, that's from a company perspective and a customer perspective, we're able to know and connect with each other even faster and more efficiently, right? Again, contrast to even 5 or 6 years ago, where you had to go into social media and you were in the different groups and you're really doing a lot of manual connecting and understanding and acquisition, particularly from a customer perspective. Now a lot of that can be automated, but automated at scale, but also personalized. So it's a combination of the AI as a technology that's able to digest, vast amounts of data that, let's be real, a lot of us are putting that out there in their social media and in forums and on websites. So there's a dearth of data that is both in the public realm, but then also in businesses as well. And it used to take forever to process all of that at scale and also personalize the communication individually. And AI has helped digest all that information, bring the insights so that the personalization and really at the end of the day, the connection that needs to happen, AI helps to make sure that happens and it serves both for the consumer, but then also the company more efficiently.
So is there a brand or a project that you were involved with where you could give some people listening to my broadcast and some people in your audience may not really know exactly what you're talking about because it's a little bit out of their scope. It's not what they do for a living. Can you give us an example and some of the personalization, with certain brands that you may have worked with on how AI has helped, maybe instead of them buying A, they bought A and B or A, B and C, or any specific products or projects you could tell us about so you could paint the picture for us?
Sure. So I'll talk about two in contrast. So to kind of really give you a sense of what's possible now compared to where it was before. Some years ago, I worked with Puma, the athletics company, and huge company, global company, and they were actually looking to, the capacity that we worked together was that they were looking to create a campaign around the World Cup, right? And everybody, especially outside of the US, knows that the World Cup is a pretty big deal, right? Lots of countries, a lot of attention, bigger than the Super Bowl in that sense. So Puma, within that context, was really trying to reach the audience. In this case, it was the first World Cup in Africa. So, kind of a unique opportunity there. And even from a customer perspective, not a consumer base that most global companies had really focused on. But again, this is the opportunity that they had. During that time where we came in and they really wanted to understand, okay, what is this customer about? Like, how can we authentically create communications that speaks to them, but we don't really understand what they are. So back in those days, probably about 10 or 15 years ago, what we had to do was do a lot of manual ethnographies, right? And data gathering. So you're talking about essentially speaking to individuals for months and months over time, documenting conversations about how people are feeling, like what's their what their preferences, how they feel about certain products, how they feel about food. Again, just to try to understand the customer so that we can now create advertising and branding that speaks to that customer. I mean, years and months and lots of money to really understand that customer, to then create the assets and the advertising that Puma was able to put out and have a huge impact with their television commercial and their kits and all the branding that came out of that. Contrast that to one of my recent clients, which is a waste management company in the US that was actually trying to expand and really expand within the East Coast, but then also understand even not just a broad consumer base for waste management. And you're talking about essentially dumpster rentals, right? So not as sexy as athletics, but they were trying to expand their footprint. They didn't have the budget, and they didn't really have the understanding of the professional, the B2B customer. So they're really more B2C. So where I came in, and we were able, whereas Puma, it took us probably about 7 months to even start understanding who the customer was. With this client that I just worked with most recently, it took us 3 weeks to go from not understanding who the customer is to going online, digesting all that information with the help of AI, speaking to probably about 3 individuals, but gathering data around probably thousands of super niche professionals and their conversations through online sources. And we're able to gather that data, process that data, and come up with the insights that were specific to the interaction that waste management company needs to have to those people in their language. And that was something that we did in 3 weeks. So, that's a huge shift that we're seeing right now, where before it took forever and large budgets, and now you're able to do that in a much shorter time, more efficiently. And again, the personalization that comes out of that is where we really see the value. So yes, those are 2 examples. And that's something that you don't need someone like me to do. The tools exist for essentially someone like myself would be able to identify the tools for you and help you through that process. But that's something that's accessible to anyone at any company at any stage right now.
And that's really helpful to know how to prompt and how to utilize AI and how to get the information you may be querying, along with the skills that are necessary in the skill sets in brand and brand management. So that was really an exciting example of what can be done. So people who are in business right now, they're just getting involved. They're a little nervous about the technology and the AI and everything else taking place. But at the end of the day, you really can't get left behind. At the speed everything is going, you can save money, you can save time, you can increase the reach, but you could do it so quickly. When you look at your background and everything that you've seen and observed, what concerns you that you would not really say out loud normally, but you've got an eyebrow raised that, like, this is a little sketchy here a little bit. What else is going on behind that's happening in some of the sectors or industries with AI that one wouldn't know just being a startup or just getting into the game and they nervous anyway? Can we give anybody a heads up out there?
Yeah, 1,000%. And one thing that pops into my mind is, to your point, Donna, the technologies and the tools are so accessible, and a lot of time for free, right? ChatGPT is free. There are tons of AI projects and tools that are free. I think the downside of that is that a lot of people think that the technology, just the usage of the technology, will allow them to get the impact and the ROI that they're looking for. So what I mean by that is something as simple as creating content for social media. You can do that pretty quickly these days. Like anyone can do that. The downside of that is that we have a lot of content and social media that looks and sounds the same, right? So you're not actually, so you have it's really about quantity right now, and you have a lot of people jumping in and just kind of using these tools without any kind of strategy, and that's kind of where I always emphasize, like, what is your strategy for using the tool? The tool is only going to amplify what you already have, right? Or the lack of what you have, right? And I think that's the biggest problem that we're seeing now, where you have a number of people who are, using these tools, but they don't have the strategies or the structure to allow them to, when combined with these tools, to really create the impact that works for them specifically. And so that they don't sound and look like the same people all online. And that is the hurdle. So how do you battle that? How do you weigh those? And that's something that's real about technology. It makes things easier, but the easier it becomes, the more saturated it becomes, and in a large sense, the more disconnected it becomes.
It's true. So with the CTOs that might be on the podcast or looking at the video, there's a lot of CTOs that I have met, quite a few, where they're in this space. They're a little bit nervous about it. Their company needs to onboard. They need to do some things differently. How do they know what they need? How do they reach out to you? Or if you had a conversation with one of them and you had 2 minutes, how do you let them have some comfort on how to move their company forward? Because they don't know what they need. They don't know how they need it. They just know they need to get in the game. They're nervous about it. And how you going to tell them what they need to do, and why should they trust you? That's what the company needs.
And on top of that,
there's a lot of questions there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I definitely understand it. And that's kind of the conversations I'm in a lot more these days, right? Where people want to interact with they want to leverage the technologies, and a lot of times, even from a business perspective, they have to, in order to compete and to meet their numbers, their revenue numbers, or their employee numbers. So there's kind of that dynamic, and those conversations actually led me to create. So I actually created a 5-minute quiz, a tool that you can actually go in, an automated tool. You can actually go in, answer certain questions, about 7 or 8 questions that are specific around AI and the use of AI for you and your particular situation. Answer 7 questions, and it'll tell you where you need to be starting, right? Don't try to boil the ocean, and I think that's what happens with a lot of CTOs. You try to do all at once, and I created this tool so that people could level set, right? See where they are and where they need to be next. And that's kind of the beginning, right? So set expectations around what you and your unique situation and company can and can't do in a particular time. Now, that tool is, I actually will give the link to that if you mind. It's at the brand.
Give the links. I'm about to ask you what's on the assessment. That's
yeah. So I have both the assessment and a number of other resources that I'll make available to your listeners. It's going to be at thebrandsensei.co. So thebrand, SENSEI.co/web3. So that thebrandsensei.co/web3, number 3, obviously. So the listeners of this podcast could go to that, and they'll be able to see that assessment tool that I was talking about that helps you understand where you need to start with AI, but then also some other resources that will help you orient both around the kind of brand storytelling that you can framework that I use, particularly with selling to partners and investors, but then also some other tools there as well. So it is about level setting and setting expectations, and CTOs, level set there, and then obviously, you can engage with someone like myself that could also understand your unique situation and help you go to the next level and help you get the impact that you actually need to have at the pace that your company is willing to move at.
So I didn't mean to focus it just on the CTOs, but your CMOs and your C-suite. Anyone in your C-suite? Who else is in your audience that you would like to take a look at the assessment and the tool and connect with you?
Yeah, these CTOs, CMOs, as you mentioned, founders, CEOs. So pretty much all the C-suite, and we created the tool so that it's not role specific, but it is kind of leadership specific, right? If you can and if you want to and can have an impact on the direction of your company and how it's being presented out in the world, this is a tool for you. And it's going to be at thebrandsensei.co/web3. So that's a tool that anyone can use. You know, it's free, no strings attached, and it'll help people, I think, both orient themselves as to where they need to start, but then also hopefully quell the FOMO, right? That a lot of these technologies amplify within an organization.
So with that said, is there anything else you want to share with us while you have this opportunity? Anything we need to look forward to, or any projects you're involved with, or any secrets you want to share? I'm always in for secrets and any eyebrow raised up, you know, like, what's up, you know?
That's the main thing. You know, I have all the resources at that link. But I will say that, you know, for leaders of organizations, big and small, you know, the advent of AI and even the technologies before it is not going away, right? At this point, you can only count on the acceleration of technology as we go forward in even shorter periods. So understanding how your company can position itself to both adapt to that technology, but also leverage it in the right way should be top of mind. Whether you work with myself through thebrandsensei.com or you work with anyone else, I think that should be a priority for organizations going forward, and just at the end of the day, put together a plan. And, you know, I could definitely help together a plan and a roadmap for how your company is going to help leverage those technologies to tell your brand story and connect to the audiences and the communities that you need to.
And with that said, thank you for listening to Pivoting to Web3 and Kofi Annan. I'm glad that you were here sharing the exciting information about branding, because that's what it's about, pivoting to Web3. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for listening and have a great day, and I look forward to serving you soon. Thanks for checking in the Pivoting to Web3 podcast. Go to pivotingtoweb3podcast.com to download and listen, or Web3 Game Plan to check out the videos. Thank you. We're shaping tomorrow together.